Hey, hi, how are you? My name's Felt, and welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. Today we're talking about openers. This video I'm going to cover what is an opener, why does it matter, some places you can find good resources for them, and we're going to talk a little bit about unique openers and how to know when to not follow an opener. Let's get started. Okay, let's start by talking about what is an opener. Now, an opener is the most optimal way to use your weapon skills or spells, depending on what you're playing, as well as your abilities, including buffs, to make yourself and your party do the most amount of damage within those buffs. That's a lot of words. The basic idea of it is that there is a truly optimal way to play the game sometimes. There is as I talked about in the rotations video, there is a way to go through a rotation for a job to make it do the most amount of damage. An opener is the best way to start out a fight so that you're doing the most amount of damage and giving your party the most amount of damage. Dragoon is a wonderful example of a job with an opener because Dragoon's opener is something that starts simple and builds and builds and builds. At early levels, all you'll have is Lance Charge in your opener. You'll go, alright, True Thrust, Disembowel, Weave Lance Charge, hit Chaotic Spring, or Chaos Thrust at 50. And you're only really worrying about yourself. When level 52 comes around, you get Battle Litany, and you're like, okay, well now I need to make sure I'm hitting Battle Litany at the right time to buff my party members, as well as hitting all my big numbers inside of my buffs, like hitting my full thrusts under Life Surge properly, as well as hitting it all into Lance Charge. Okay, that makes sense. It's growing, it's building. Then as you get to an even higher level, you get to add in stuff like Dragon Sight and your extra jumps. And when you're at endgame content, you get to think about using stuff like in potions, which are called tinctures right now, but they're potions, that also buff your damage for a certain amount of time. The whole point of an opener is that you get the best start possible to a fight, because this will be essentially the biggest damage portion of the fight, because everything is always going to be aligned properly if everyone's doing their openers at the same time. Big example is Dragoon pops Battle Litany after their Chaotic Spring in their opener. They go True Thrust, Disembowel, Double Weave, Dragon Sight, Lance Charge, Chaotic Spring, Battle Litany. Battle Litany after their third GCD. Well, Monk goes Dragon Kick, Twin Snakes, Weave Riddle of Fire, Demolish, Boot Shine Brotherhood. So after their fourth GCD, they push Brotherhood. But Monk's GCD is a little faster. So it kind of evens itself out a little bit. But because of that, Brotherhood, a 5% damage buff to the party, as well as Battle Litany, a 10% crit buff to the party, are going out at the same time, meaning the entire party will be getting 5% damage, 10% crit, while both of those buffs are out at the same time. You can even include other jobs, like a job like Bard giving Wanderer's Minuet, as well as Radiant Finale during the opener. Dancer gives out their Devilment and their Technical Step. Summoner throws out Searing Light. Red Mage throws out Embolden. There are a lot of party buffs that you want to align properly so that during the opener section of the fight, the very beginning of the fight, all of everyone's damage is falling under all those party buffs. It is the best way to start a fight because it will give you essentially a head start on the fight by making it so that all of your big damage numbers are coming out all at the same time. And if you're doing the proper opener, it will align yourself so that at the 1 minute window, or odd minute windows as they've become to be called, you'll be able to hit your personal buffs for a lot of jobs. And then at your even minute windows, or the 2 minute windows, you'll be able to still be aligned and hit your 2 minute buffs at the same time as everyone else, making the party do better damage. That's the whole point of an opener. Aligns you with everything else so that everyone does the most amount of damage possible. Alright, I kind of already spoiled this section in the previous section, but this is about why openers matter. So this is more of a if you skip that entire last section because this is a video that you clicked on and you wanted to know why do openers matter, it aligns yourself with the rest of the party. I talked about this in the last section, which you should have been watching, but it'll allow things like Battle Litany to become lined up properly with things like Brotherhood, making those buffs stack on top of each other, making your party do more damage. The whole idea of an opener is that everyone is hitting their party buffs at the same time, so that everyone's big damage skills will all fall within a certain window. As of right now, everyone's doing it so that their party buffs typically last from about after the third GCD for the next 15 seconds. That is the big burst window for just about every job right now. is after the third GCD, so about 8 seconds into the fight typically. I'm saying 8 seconds because it's 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, which is technically 7.5. But around 8 seconds into the fight is around that point in time that everyone's big damage numbers should start showing up, and everyone's going to start spiking in the amount of damage that they do. And that's the whole point of having a properly made opener and a properly aligned opener, is that if you're doing things properly, all of your big hits or just all of your extra damage skills will be falling into that gap. Dragoon's a great example of that. Our old openers used to be a lot more greedy because of the way that we had to misalign our Life of the Dragon windows to use Stardiver properly off cooldown. However, nowadays, we have a perfect 2-minute window rotation. Which means that we want to throw basically the kitchen sink inside of that buff window, right? So we'll do our 1, 2, 3, and then we'll hit. Then we'll hit the rest of our abilities. You know, we'll go Wheeling Thrust, Fanging Claw, True Thrust, Vorpal Thrust, Heaven's Thrust, Fanging Claw, Wheeling Thrust, all while hitting High Jump, Mirage Dive, Spine Shatter, Garrus Gogol, Dragon Fire, and using Life Surge inside of that window. And the whole point is that all of those abilities are now all going to be buffed by the rest of the party to make them do even more damage. That's why openers are important, and that's why you want to learn yours, because you will be helping out your party so much more. This is getting more into the endgame ideas of proper openers cause proper alignment throughout the rest of the fight, but it's something that you can take into even the lowest level dungeons. I think Dragoon has one of the earliest party buffs with Battle Litany, but I think even before that, at level 50, Astrologian has Divination, something that you want to be hitting off cooldown, properly aligned with the party, because everyone's natural rotations will typically line up to make it so that in that 2-minute window, everyone's dealing more damage. And Ninja has a very similar thing with Trick Attack, as low as level 50. You might say, technically you can do it a little earlier than 50. Technically it's level 45 because that's when you get Jin, but level 50 is when it matters. Meaning that Ninja has solid 60-second party buffs with Trick Attack. That's why it's so important to align stuff properly and to not mess up your rotation, which we talked about in the previous video. Go watch that if you missed it. Because aligning openers properly will align your rotation properly and allow you to do the best damage that you can. That's why these things are important. And why it might seem a little weird and you might want to be like, well, I want to play my way. You're just not going to kill stuff as fast. And in the case of extreme and savage fights, you might not clear it at all. Alright, so this is going to be a bit of a shorter section. I'm going to be talking about decent places to find resources for openers. First of all, if you're at my YouTube channel, you've obviously noticed that I have a lot of videos on how to do openers. However, I mostly talk my way through them and then show them off. And some of these openers are ones that I knew myself, that I learned myself on my own, but not all of them. Quite a few of them, it's information that I learned from other places. For example, the Balance Discord. And while you might be like, well, a Discord's not really a great place to find all this information that I want to find. Well, that's true. It's not always the best organized, because Discords are often hard to organize, but it has a ton of good information inside of the Discord. Awk Morning is a wonderful website that has tons of great resources as well. Those are my two main sources that I go to when I'm confused about an opener or trying to learn something better. They are incredibly useful resources that will help you learn how to do the game, play the game, perform in the game, clear hard content, all that stuff. They're great resources that'll help you do all of that stuff better. So this is just like a little bonus tidbit. Not every job has a single opener. I'm going to be using 2 jobs as examples here. If you know the jobs well, this will make a lot more sense to you than if you don't know them at all. However, I don't have a quick way of explaining things. If you're confused on my monk stuff, go to the Balance. They have great resources there. That's where I learned a lot about current monk myself. Go watch my videos on monk. I put those out. One of them has a few errors in it, but I put the corrections in the comment, so don't worry about that. But monk has 2 openers right now. They have the double solar opener and the lunar solar opener. And the whole idea of those openers being that one of them is better than the other depending on when you can kill the boss. The whole idea is that you want to get out as many phantom rushes as possible inside of a fight. So if you're ending the fight with the ability to cast a phantom rush on your next perfect balance usage, you should have been using the other opener, is the bottom line. Monk is one of the more unique jobs in the game in that it has that being a thing. However, there is another job, in fact, another job that just got buffed, that also has a unique opener like that. Because Paladin just got a buff to its Blade of Faith, Blade of Truth, Blade of Valor combo, depending on the fight that you're entering into, there is actually an opener that people are recommending where you will use Fight or Flight just about 20 seconds before the fight even starts. Because you will hit your first Goring Blade combo underneath Fight or Flight. You will go Fast Blade, Right Blade, Goring Blade underneath Fight or Flight, and then you will immediately use your Confiteor combo, essentially. Sorry, your Requiescat magic phase, use your proper amount of Holy Spirits, then use Confiteor, then use your Blade combo, because it aligns it better within party buffs, and it now is just a lot of damage. And on top of that, you are still hitting that Goring Blade under most party buffs that are going out at that point in time. Keep in mind, this is a bit more of the high-end optimization finicky stuff. I recommend just finding standard openers and learning them and not worrying about learning multiple openers or learning about pre-pull shenanigans like that. However, it is good information to have in the back of your head for when you're at the higher end point of the game. When you're savage raiding on a consistent basis and you're trying to eke out those tiniest last bits of damage because you're doing week 1, week 2 of a fight and you're just a little bit shy of killing the boss, that's when you want to start thinking about stuff like this and thinking, maybe I should be using the alternate opener for my job. This is not something that you want to be just, doing out of nowhere, making up on the fly, but it is a good idea to know about, that sometimes there is another opener, and particular boss fights can't have their own opener that work better for them because of times when the boss leaves, or because of times when the boss becomes untargetable. Alright, so you might wonder why I record all of my videos in this part of the world. Spoilers, I suppose, if you're not to the end of Endwalker, but I always record these videos in Thavnair, and in particular at Palaka's Stand. And that is because when I record the gameplay portion, I am using the Sharp-Eyed Radiant here. Now, why does all of this matter? What are you even talking about, Felt? Well, if you talk to the Sharp-Eyed Radiant and choose Fight, you have access to Stone Sky Sea. Stone Sky Sea is a unique solo instance that allows you to fight a striking dummy that will more or less determine whether you are ready to go into a certain fight. For example, I can go and fight the striking dummy, and if I'm able to kill it within the time limit, supposedly I would be able to meet the DPS check of the 4th Circle Savage. Now, it's not perfect. It's not properly set up for every job right now. And in fact, sometimes it's not even accurate at all. However, even if you're not using to determine whether or not you can beat up a fight, it is still useful for practicing openers. Let me show you what I mean. So, for example, let's say I want to practice my monk openers. This is something that I actually do on a fairly regular basis, because I like to improve in my job. I hit it, I choose the fight that I want to practice on. If I'm just trying to practice the opener, it doesn't matter what fight I choose. But I go up to the dummy, I get ready to fight, and I start, and I go through my opener. This is just the monk double solo opener. It's what I've been using in Savage recently because of my team's kill times. So I'm going through the opener, hitting all my buttons. Opener's almost done. Only 3 more GCDs left. And, okay, cool, there's my opener. My opener's done. Now I'm into the rotational part of my rotation. And I'm like, okay, well, I think I did pretty okay on that, but I want to practice and go again. I want to try and redo my opener to do it better. So you leave, you talk to the Attentive Radiant. And then it'll say you failed your trial, and oh no, everything's on a massive cooldown. Well, you go, you talk, you choose a fight again, you hit start. And now everything is off of cooldown. The way that Stone Sky Sea works is because it's made to set up, it's a setup to test whether or not you can kill something in a certain amount of time. It automatically resets your cooldowns when you enter. Meaning that if you ever want to try out any type of opener, any type of rotational thing, any type of anything that you want all of your abilities on cooldown for, you can go to Stone Sky Sea. Now, this is not unlocked by default. There are several Stone Sky Sea people throughout the expansions. If I remember correctly, the first one was in Idleshire. Oops, sorry. I did not mean to teleport to Idleshire. I apologize. Inside of Idleshire, and it's either around the gate, in the area, or outside of the gate. I know that once you have interacted with them, they stand right here. There's obviously one for Stormblood as well. I believe the quest starts inside of Ralgar's Reach, and then when you're done with talking to the guy, he'll be standing out here ready for you to fight. As for Shadowbringers, the person starts with a quest inside of Yulmore, and after you finished dealing with their quest, they'll be standing out here ready for you to talk to them. And for this one inside of Endwalker, they start inside of Radzat Han, around here I believe, and then when you're done doing the quest, they are out here for you to talk to. There's one for each expansion. It allows you to practice any fight you've unlocked across any expansion in terms of practicing your DPS, not practicing mechanics. But it's a very useful thing. If nothing else, it is very useful for practicing your openers at whatever level of content you want to practice it for. It's a very useful resource, and even if you don't think it's good for a pure DPS check, it is still good for practicing openers. If nothing else, that is the number one thing it is good for, because every time you enter into it, it will reset all of your cooldowns from scratch, and you will be able to try to do your openers again. Alright, so that's the video. I think this one probably went on a little longer than I originally anticipated, but openers are a really important part of higher end content and improving at the game. This might be a little too advanced for this early on in my Improving at 14 series. However, it's just going to be a bunch of random information that I'm thinking of on the spot, not off the spot. Come on, brain. As you can tell, these videos are still somewhat off the cuff. But either way, hope you enjoyed it. Hope there was some useful information in it. If you got any questions, leave them down below in the comments. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Either way, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope to catch you next time.